Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, guys, welcome to another special episode of the Strength Coach Podcast. Normally, we do this with Vince Gabriel, founder of Gabriel Fitness Performance and KISS Marketing and Fitness Business University. But we have a special episode today, so we don't have to listen to Vince yammer on and on. That's probably more for me, that I'm more excited. But we got on Joe Hashey, and Joe's was the president and founder of Synergy Athletics in upstate New York. He's won the Small Business Person of the Year award there. He's a best-selling author, contributor to Men's Health, Oxygen, Experience Life. He's been a featured speaker at three times featured speaker at NSCA's National Trainer Conference. One of the really cool things with Joe is he's had, like I said, 3 gyms, and he has other businesses as well. And he realized, like a lot of us, that he was spending more time on his business than with his family, and that he needed to fix that, and it needed some rebalancing. So he started the Strong Family Company, and he does the Strong Family podcast with his wife Mel, and they basically try to help families learn to reestablish values and have a stress-free, if that's even possible. Yeah, there you go. Family leadership. But a couple more cool things about Joe. He broke David Goggins' 24-hour pull-up record, and he once did an ultra marathon without training for it, just decided to do it. So we're going to have to find out all about that. He's currently the head business coach at the SPF Mastermind. You've heard Vince talk about him so much. So Joe, thanks for doing this, brother.
Anthony, absolute pleasure. I look forward to the conversation.
All right. So let's just take a step back here and kind of let you do that 35,000-foot overview of just from the gym perspective. So you had Synergy, your first one, and that one better be good if you want to open 2. They both better be good if you want to open 3. Give us an overview of your little history of your time owning the gyms.
Yeah, absolutely, Anthony. I guess a good place to start is back when we initially launched it. My story is basically my father passed when I was very young. I was graduating college to be a high school teacher. I was teaching economics and U.S. history, coaching a bunch of sports, doing that whole gig. And when he passed, I thought, I really want to help people live a longer and healthier life. He was very unhealthy. He was over 300 pounds, pack-a-day smoker, 2 liters of Pepsi every day, that kind of lifestyle. And his father passed when he was in high school. I have 3 brothers. This life is not great if our lineage only lives about 50. So I started getting more passionate about fitness and strength training. I was able to play some college football at Colgate. So I had a little bit of a background in it. And I spent the first year traveling around to any gym that would open their doors to me, trying to learn from them. I remember I bought a book from a guy named Jim Smith, Chaos Core, and I looked in the back. And he was like 2 towns over. So I sent him an email. I was like, come on down to my garage. We'll train together. This is like early 2000s. So I started training with him, and he opened a bunch of doors for me. Got to go lift at Westside and Elite and a bunch of colleges and a bunch of private gyms. So I took all this knowledge and I opened my big gym in the basement of the duplex that my wife and I live in with one client, my aunt, who paid $20 twice a week. So I made $40 a week to start with that initial client. And then we started running some football camps. We got some kids in. We started getting some parents in. We maxed out our basement facility after a year with 15 clients, expanded to behind a baseball development facility. And I think started really taking off for us because we were focused on delivering a great service and passion for the clients. And we moved into a bigger facility. Then we opened another one. We got a partnership with a health group. This thing started steamrolling over 16 years of running the company. We did 6 or 7 gym openings and expansions and really focusing on delivering a great service. So I had spent those first few years traveling around, learning everything I could about the fitness. That was about 5 years. And then the next 5 years, I did the same for business. Any business, that, including my members, we had some great resources, guys and gals who own companies. I'd take them out to lunch. I'd ask them a ton of questions, and they would want to mentor me on, give me great ideas for business. And they helped me out a ton. It was irrelevant of industry. It was one lady had managed a bunch of Wendy's franchises. Another gentleman had an IT company, and another person was in hospitality and hotel management. I would just take them out to lunch and listen to everything they had to say and kind of integrate it in with all that fitness travel I did, with all this business expertise that people were willing to share and mentor a young guy at that time.
I love that you just said that because I think it's such a, we have this gold mine. And when we dig deeper into our clients and not just, okay, what do they do, but really to kind of have that conversation and let them open up about really what they do for a living or their, because by the way, they also, if you just listen to what they do and they say they work for a bank, whatever, but maybe they did something else before that and before that and before that. So they have this wealth of knowledge. I love that you did that. It's funny in my book and Be Like the Best, we're talking about relationship, building relationships. So one of the be likes was to, be like Jason, take some people out and, somebody who you haven't talked to in a while, or then somebody take out one of your clients, go have lunch with them and but exactly what you did, because we have this untapped resource right under our fingertips.
Oh, it's huge. It's such a relationship building technique to leverage their expertise. Let them be the authority instead of always giving them the sets and reps. Like they bring a lot to the table. We had HR advice from the head HR person at Lockheed Martin. She was a member. We sat down with a police chief and they helped us do our emergency action protocol, and EMS helped us out because they were gym members, and our CPR training. Volunteer firemen's actually brought some of our trainers. We got to run through a house with them and pretend to put out fires during their training so we could feel what it was like to be them and handle that kind of stress. And like there's so much value in just within our facilities.
So is Colgate near Binghamton? That's where your gyms were. Synergy started in
Yep.
Binghamton, right? Is Colgate near Binghamton?
Yeah, it's upstate New York, right in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of everyone gets it confused with Cornell, but it's probably about an hour drive from there. Hamilton,
Okay, it
New
is.
York. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Ithaca is right there. That's right. I just wanted, the reason why I was asking you is when we did my first Strength Coach TV with Vince, I asked Vince about how he built his business up. This is 12 years ago, probably. And he was talking about being a football player as well and kind of knowing a lot of coaches and being able to reach out to coaches. That's how he started. He was working with a lot of athletes. And I want to kind of segue this into this idea about community building, right? And because, if you played football or if you're from that area, a lot of times you'll know a bunch of people. It's easy to get that. It's easier to get a start. So I just wanted to talk about your idea. You and I were talking earlier about one of the biggest problems, I think, or misconceptions with people is they go for the sexy sales and marketing stuff and they forget you got to keep these people. That's where the gold is. And let's talk about this idea about building a community, retention, because like I said earlier, if you open a gym, if you want to open gym number 2, that gym number 1 better be dialed in. And Ned, if you're going to open 3, obviously you had a couple dialed in. How did you build that community? How did you manage this whole thing? Can you talk to us about what I feel like is probably the most important piece of the puzzle?
It started originally from our passion, which is, hey, we want to help adults live longer and healthier lives. I said I got to play some football at Colgate. I ended up having 4 knee surgeries, didn't get able to finish the last couple of years. And we also wanted that to help athletes avoid going down that same path. So out of that, we just started with like, hey, we have these local youth organizations where it's usually parent volunteers for coaches. Let us just show up at the first one. Let's teach you a warm up, just a basic 5 to 10 movements that you can use at every practice so every kid's prepared. And then you just take it from there. It wasn't like this was a few years in. It wasn't like I even knew what lead generation opportunities were. I just wanted to help these kids not get hurt. And then the parents like, hey, what can we do for you? Like, I'd love to send you over. And it starts to build relationships like this. And it makes a lot of sense now that I had one of those mentors I mentioned, a guy named Kevin, who owns a huge IT company, handed me one of my first professional development books called The Go Giver. And the basic premise of the original Go Giver is you basically go out and help as many people as possible accomplish what they want, and then you'll have everything you want. And so we were doing it a little bit informally, but we started to formalize the process, like whatever we could do to help the community, even if it didn't have an immediate return, but it had an omnipresence. We'd go for an hour and speak at all the schools. If they were doing like a physical health, mental health type thing, we would just volunteer our time. And then all of a sudden people are like, hey, we want to be part of what you're doing here because you're doing so much in the community. It's not just ads. Of course, we run ads, but it's just not, it doesn't feel like a binary exchange of money for fitness when it comes to our facilities. And that's because we spent time doing what we love, which is getting to know people and build a community.
Joe, was there a little more thought from the perspective of demographics in that? So, for example, one of the things that I really kind of wanted to accelerate when I had Five Iron Fitness was, okay, maybe I'm going to go into some of these high schools that don't have the money for a golf strength and conditioning program. That is my demographic. I want to help golfers, right? That's Five Iron Fitness. So, were you looking at, okay, we're going to try to help the community in general, or was there a little more specific purpose to it?
At the beginning, we were just helping the community. We realized that going to speak at a school, we're not going to promote a product to these kids and things like that. It was just
Yeah.
for the sake of strengthening a relationship. However, as we move closer to joint ventures with other businesses and organizations, we certainly put some thought into it. Basically, we asked our members, where do you work, where do you shop, and where do you hang out? And then we try to build relationships with those people to strengthen that person's totality of their experience. So if we had, this is one of our great community relationships, a lot of people went over to this gymnastics studio for their kids. They did like ninja classes or gymnastics. And I went over and got a relationship going with them. We're like, hey, well, one of our biggest problems is we don't have enough spots for these parents. These parents all just like want to stand and watch our kids. And sometimes it interferes with the coaches. If the parents are trying to coach, I'm like, what can you do? I'm like, hey, we'll give you a 30-day pass to send your best parents right down the street to our gym. They'll come train with us while their kids are doing gymnastics. And they loved it. And they start sending people over. But the reason why we chose that one is because a lot of our clients already used it. So we put some thought into demographic for sure. And we are more generous with what we can give away if we know it's within our demographic. So we just gave them a 30-day pass to come send them over for some spots and group training. It's not like I would do that on a Groupon and just like give it away to the masses, because then we'll run into issues if it's not within our demographic for sure.
Excellent, excellent. So let's stay on that now. So what you specifically did you do it formally? Did you start saying to people, hey, let me, I got, can you fill out this survey? Where are you shopping? Did you try to do it informally and write it down? How did you start to compile this information?
We asked them, we said, we asked our members, we know what, you know what we're all about here at Synergy. Do you know any businesses or workplaces that share similar values? We'd love to meet them. And that was the exact email we sent out. And we had tons of people reply, hey, my workplace has this health and fitness committee. I would never guess it's a bank. Like, I wouldn't have gone necessarily to a bank, but they're for their clients, but their workers, they had this program. So they do an email introduction. I get to talk to them. They start sending people over. One was a hospital group, one was a physical therapist. Some of it was their kids' sports teams or travel teams. It's more important to get that introduction and relationship and say, hey, this person said we share similar values. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. It makes it a very easy conversation.
Very cool. Let's go into that conversation. So I have that meeting with the banker. Uh, um, what are you saying to them? How are you getting them to kind of, because they might just be like, here's this meathead coming in trying to get business, right? So what do you say? Like, how does that conversation go for you?
I ask them more questions than I talk about myself. And I usually come in with three things in my mind from our toolbox when I want to learn what they want, and then I'll apply one of those three things. My ultimate goal is to have them gift something to their employees or clients to come try us out. I want them to be framed as the hero. Hey, here's this gift over at Synergy. Everyone knows it's this amount of money. You see the ad, but we're going to give it to you for free to go try it out for a month as being an employee here. We don't have them try to sell like 10% off or anything like that, because then they're a salesperson and not a giver. That's ultimately where we want to go. However, it doesn't always go that way. Sometimes the HR wants us to do a lunch and learn. Sometimes they want to do a little workplace wellness. And if we do well at that, at the end, they will give us that email. So I come prepared with that. I listen to them. I usually follow up with, hey, like, I have some great ideas. Let me go home and think, finalize them. I'll email you tomorrow and you can let me know your thoughts. So I'm always setting time frames. They know what to expect of me, and then I'll close the loop that way.
Awesome. So it sounds like with these, the local joint ventures, you you don't really have a specific, I love it that you don't have a specific, hey, let's only go to therapists. Or for me, if I'm at 5 Iron Fitness, I might think, oh, I'm only going to go to the golf pros. You're just thinking who's close by. I'm assuming we want people in a relative proximity to the gym. And then you're going to start to figure out how you guys can work together.
Absolutely. We find some of those people who get hit up a lot for joint ventures are most resistant to it, like a physical therapist. Like everyone wants referrals. The whole medical world is based on referrals, and they need to be a little bit more, and I understand this, they need to be a little bit more careful with who they refer people to because their name is on it. And if they end up getting injured, then it makes them look bad. And it's all within that medical or medical based field. So they're a little bit more hesitant. It takes a ton of work. But if it's someone that owns like a gymnastics studio, a daycare, we want to do good with other businesses. We found much easier approach that way.
Yeah, I can say that with one of the ways I kind of snuck in with the golf pros was I'd be like, okay, Joe, great. You're coming to me. I'm like, Joe, would you mind if I come in? Are you taking lessons? Oh, you're taking lessons with, Bob Smith. Great. Would you mind if I come in when you're on during your next lesson? And could I contact your golf pro and say, hey, Joe, Joe said it was cool. I'd love to come and just watch. I'm not going to say anything. I just want to watch and see what you guys are doing and learn from you. Right. And then I would ask them maybe for them for a lesson. Right. And then I would
Yeah,
develop
very
this
smart.
relationship, and then say, hey, you know, Bob, love what you're doing with Joe. If you ever want to come down for a couple sessions, let me do an evaluation on you. You could see what I'm doing with Joe. And so that started to build the relationship. And there wasn't any, hey, send me any clients. I already have one client in common with you. Let's help them get better. So that's kind of how I did it with them. But I like to your point, they were really like physical therapists. They were worried about who they were going to send their people to.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it, getting in the door and elevating them as the authority. I love that, Anthony. Something else we do whenever we listen on the floor, whenever someone complimented another business or professional they worked with, I would look them up and email them the next day. So someone would say, hey, I went to my doctor and they loved my blood work. Like I told them I was working on Synergy and it's amazing. I have this great doctor. Okay. Well, if I can't get the doctor's email, I'll write a letter to that doctor's office. Hey, we have this client in common, just like you said. She had amazing things to say about you, and I just wanted to share that bit of gratitude that she had for you. Sometimes we don't hear that as professionals, so here's a letter. And I'll just start building relationships. Anytime I hear a compliment, I want to make sure it gets to the person they're talking.
Nice. Let's stay on this because I know you got more ideas for this stuff. And like I said, you were teaching this for Vince. I don't know if you still are, but in the beginning, you were
Yeah.
the joint venture guy for sure. Again, I remember TJ even saying to me, TJ Lopez saying, oh, Joe's the man when it comes to this. And so tell me give people some more ideas about this joint venture idea.
Yeah, and I was actually just talking to TJ today, joking around about the weather, and he's holding in there, and he's doing a great job at his company. Yeah, so for joint ventures, we view it as our marketing expense. So if let's just say you do Facebook ads and it costs you $200 to get a new client signed up. That's not a lead. I'm not enamored by lead numbers or like sales calls. How many members do you get out of it? That's what I like to see. And so let's just say it costs you $200, not $7 for a click. Like I don't care about any of that. I care about the end number. So let's just say it's $200. I view that as my marketing spend that I can take the $200 and gift it to someone that I know is going to be my perfect client to come in and train in an empty session or an empty spot in a session. And so there's this big mental barrier that I think gym owners have. Like, I'm not going to give anything away for free. Like someone online told me never to give anything away for free. Which, okay, yeah, that's fine. Don't do Groupon. Like, don't do those big blasts. But if it's your perfect person, your expertise, and this is critical to understand, your expertise and your staff's expertise should be on training, giving someone a great experience. If you're spending more time on teaching them marketing and sales consults, then they're not going to have an opportunity to show off what they know. My idea is that, hey, we'll get them in, we'll show them a great experience, and then at the end, ask them if they want to sign up. It is so simple because it allows our trainers to train. And we had one trainer, young guy out of college. I still remember this, who wasn't the most articulate, but we just said, hey, here's this. I'm not using his name. I almost did. Here's their sales system. Give them a great workout. Ask them if they want to continue. So give them a great workout. Says, hey, do you see how this can help you? Yes. I recommend 3 times per week. Does that sound good? Yes. He's closing at 90%. He didn't have like a sit down conversation. All he got to do was stay within his core competency. And if you're doing joint ventures and you're choosing the people that are going to be the ideal client, it allows you to show off what you do and not spend time. Yes, I love copywriting. Yes, I love marketing and external stuff, and I love this stuff, but you're going to burn out your team. And I know you and I were chatting about it earlier. You're going to burn out people if you want them to work without outside their core competency for more than 80% or I wouldn't even say 80%, more than some of their time with you if you're trying to say, hey, you got to be a trainer and a salesperson. And I also need you to bring in 3 people per month. It starts to burn them out.
Yeah, and I think I heard a great thing one time. He said 95% of the employment, when an employment ends, 95% of the time it has to do with the job description. So it has to do with the description or this idea of, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm getting hired as a personal trainer. Oh, cool. I fit everything here. Then I come in and it's sales and it's like, oh, by the way, yeah, we also clean. Great. We all know we have to clean as you go, but then they want you to, get the mop out and, do some other things. And not that that's so bad. It's just that these are things that you weren't told in the beginning. So this idea was, all of these problems that people have with termination of employment, whether that's fired or getting quit, has to do with the job description because we didn't let them know exactly what was expected of them, and they thought something different.
Yeah, it makes 100%. One of our marketing manager's favorite quotes, clarity is kind. You have to be very clear. You don't have to sugarcoat and say, well, like, hey, you'll be training and then maybe a little cleaning. And like you start to backpedal, like just be clear. That is kind to them to make a decision so that they can stay with you longer or not. They can make the decision up front. You got to give them the facts though.
Absolutely. Let's just stay on. We were talking about community management, but I really want to just talk a little bit about keeping those members. So we've heard you say it a couple times, providing a great experience. So what specifically are you doing when you're talking to those synergy trainers originally? Like, this is what we really need you to do. We want to provide the best experience. What does that mean to you?
So initially we thought it was just the sets and reps. That's the mindset I came with as a trainer. Like, I'm gonna give them great workouts. People don't know what a great workout is. Professionally, we need to provide it, but they're bombarded with so much information on 1,000 different workouts. And how you get them to trust you and stay with you long term is you check that box, but you also build a relationship. You have to meet and greet everyone by name. That is a standard in our company. I think it should be standard in every company. If you don't know the name of the person you're training, you might as well just like send them off to somebody else. So you got to meet and greet by name. And then you create a very routine experience of what to expect when you come in. Then, after you create that routine experience, you give them a little bit of a break of that experience. And here's what I mean. Every 90 days, we'll do like the Synergy Games, which is a little bit of our functional fitness contest where people can come in and challenge themselves to see if they can beat their previous time on a few functional activities. So it's always standard, great workouts. And then here's a little something to train for. Otherwise, they just think it's all like blends together. They're all just training. And a year, 2 years go down the road, you never do anything different. Like they're going to burn out. And so we'll do something like Synergy Games. Once a year, we shuffle our equipment around. We don't go buy new equipment. We just change the flow. And we're like, wow, you invested so much. Like, we didn't invest in anything. We just cleaned it, rotated it. People love that. So you don't have to go all in with expenses. We'll do mini habit challenges. Like, hey, everyone knows it's important to drink X amount of water a day. Who would like me to hold you accountable for the next 10 days? And then we just send out auto text. They reply back with a picture of their water. Like, hey, let's focus on having some protein for breakfast. Who's interested? Hundreds of people say yes. Okay. Every day for the next 10 days, post a picture of your breakfast. It's not that hard. I'm not doing a ton of legwork, but it's just engaging them in a different way repeatedly throughout the year so that they're not seeing the same exact thing. Whether it's the greatest workout or not, people will get burnt out of the same thing. So we're not changing the workouts. We are committed to what we think is right on the fitness floor, but we provide these little extra, we spice it up a little bit for them throughout the year.
Love that. And I remember Alan Cosgrove talking about, he did a lecture at Perform Better, like executive training 2.0. Basically, it was saying like, okay, you get somebody to a goal, they lose the 15 pounds. That's great. That took 3 months or 4 months, whatever. And then the next 4 months is like they're still excited because they're maintaining it, right? But then it starts to go down, like the energy starts to go down. And so they were developing things like powerlifting team or obstacle race team or the 5K team or that type of thing. Kind of to your point, the synergy games like kind of gave them another goal to look for, like to be part of. Is there anything else that you guys are doing from the community perspective to kind of get people together? I remember at 5 Iron, we used to have a Saturday class, and after the class, I had a putting green there. So we used to get, 7 or 8 of us would put $20 down on the floor, and there was 4 holes on the putting green, and we would basically have, the first 9 was the first 4 holes. We go one way, then we go around the other way, and we'd have stupid rules like if you were short, you got a stroke penalty. If you hit the wall, you got a stroke penalty, right? And everybody could talk, so we were trash talking the whole time because we wanted to kind of create some tension and hopefully it would transfer eventually. But the guys loved it so much, they started inviting each other to their country clubs on other days, and they would play golf with each other. And I just absolutely love that piece of it. What else did you guys do at Synergy to make sure people were connecting with each other?
Yeah, we started something similar to what Alan did. We played games too, like post slow session. We do like bowling with the medicine balls. Like, just we want adults to have fun. But another piece of that is like a lot of times adults haven't been recognized for something in decades. They haven't accomplished something. Like when you're in high school, I play high school sports, college sports, like get all the high fives, get your all-star teams, like you're part of something and you get recognized a lot, and then somehow it just fades away as you're an adult. So first, I mentioned the synergy games. Like we let the adults pick their walk-up music. Like we have an announcer. We interview them afterwards. We get a local newscaster to interview them. Like, hey, you just completed the games, like a post-game interview. So we try to make it as fun as possible. But we also do other things. We call it our accomplishment series. Whatever the trainers were into, we'd support them in getting some gym members to do it with them. And this came out of a gym member who said, like, hey, I'm gonna run my first marathon. I said, okay, well, I'll run it with you. And I should say as an offensive tackle, it's 300 pounds. Like I'm not a runner, never was a runner in my life. And through fitness, about 250, but I was still a bigger person. But I was like, all right, I'll run it with you, Eric. Like that would mean a lot. So I signed up. I was on the wait list like a week before they bumped me in this marathon. I had not jogged more than half a mile in a decade. We would do all kinds of sleds and we do strongman training. We had some base fitness, so I'm not underplaying. Like I just came off the couch, but I had not done it. So I ran this marathon with a member, and we had a great time. And I thought, wow, I felt accomplished. Like I had done a lot. Oh, this is kind of a cool community. I did do a 5K. I'd never done any of these things in my life, but being around the community made me feel good. And so what we did is we incentivized our team. If they want to go run like a local 5K and they invite a member, we'll cover the cost for both. And so we ended up getting the trainers would go do and invite some other members, and they would get a big picture at the end. They would get their entry fee covered, but we would also reach out to the race person and say, hey, we're from Synergy. I'm going to buy a bunch of these memberships. And we start building those community relationships we talked about earlier this way. They weren't that expensive, $40, $50 a person to go entry fee to do a 5K and get tons of content. Another trainer wanted to do a half marathon. So she helped a bunch of people train for that. Another one wanted to do a mud run. So they got a group together for that. I loved hiking up in the Adirondacks. So we took 15 people. We climbed the first high peak. We went up to Whiteface as a gym and we climbed it just so they could feel that sense of accomplishment as an adult and giving them those special memories and moments. So basically looked at the strengths of our staff. What did people here like to do? If it was powerlifting, we would do that. If it was strongman, we would do that. If it was running, we'd support that. These are just an expression of fitness. I don't think that people should just train for the sake of training. They should train to enjoy something more in their life and live a deeper and fuller life. So we wanted to help bridge that gap, build a community that way.
Yeah, you're sneaky, Joe, because this is a good segue into our next kind of topic, and that is, kind of managing staff, because that was a great way to make the staff feel really good too. Like they're taking some ownership. This is their thing. You're not saying, hey, I want you to run a marathon, take some members with you. What do you like to do? So
Right.
now they feel pretty proud about what they're doing, and they're strengthening that bond with synergy. I was saying, you and I were talking earlier. I was talking to somebody this morning at a cafe, swear to God, the owner, and we were talking about he had a new guy there and he was so excited because he's the guy's from Chick-fil-A and he's very systems oriented. And he was so excited to have this guy because that's what he wants. He wants to make sure that he has somebody who's used to kind of putting these processes into play. And it's really one of the hardest things that we deal with. And I was telling you earlier, I think post COVID, it seems like I don't own my own business anymore, but it seems like it's becoming even harder to get staff and keep staff. Just looking around in my local neighborhood at restaurants and gyms and et cetera, everybody seems to be hiring. Talk to me about staff leadership, keeping staff, and what is your secret? Because that must have been a huge headache with 3 gyms.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. We had to create good systems to make sure I'll tell you, I'm speaking from a deficit. I have to be honest here. Like we would just hire people and we would run our sessions and hope no one we never ran into any issues. We'd try to hide from things and hope they never brought it up. And then like we'll just see what happens till the wheels fell off. But then we decided that's probably not a good idea. So we started implementing different management systems. We have our leadership team so that we can discuss every week on where we're going. Everyone has clarity and purpose is what we can provide them. We do have our trainer meeting to allow them clarity and purpose, like we just talked about. Like, hey, I want to do this with the members. Okay, cool. We'll support you in that. It's not a fail-proof system, but I do recall hearing a statistic that it was personal trainers and telemarketers had the highest attrition. 9 out of 10 people won't be in that job the next year. And we're not fooling anyone. We say, like, hey, if we can keep that to 5 out of 10, we're doing great. That really shifts things in our favors and in our members' favor so we can provide some consistent experience. And also coming around a system when people leave, here's what we do. We understand it's going to happen. We had a great trainer. She moved states, became a corrections officer, like this stuff. Okay, let's celebrate that person. Next person up. Let's get them onboarded in our system. And it starts to become more of the culture. Of course, you want to keep people as long as you can, but giving them some clarity on leadership, giving them some purpose, and just being very honest with them on their regular observations and setting up clear expectations like you would a client. Hey, we're going to hire you. We're going to do 90-day observations. We'll have a raise meeting at 12 months. And you set up that process. Otherwise, in their head, they're always thinking about when are they going to talk to me about more money? When are they going to talk to me about this? Like you just set it up. Here's what it is. And so that provides a lot of clarity. You'll be able to keep people longer, try to keep your key employees and understand it's okay to lose people. You should always be looking to replace your bottom 10% to get a better experience for your staff, your members, and the other staff anyways, because no one wants to work with someone that's an anchor. So there's a lot of balancing to do, but having a clear system and setting expectations is the first step.
Yeah, and like I said, I love that the way you did, giving them a little autonomy with something just as simple as, hey, what do you want to do from a physical perspective? And let's support you with that. I had a saying in the bar business when I was managing bars in New York City. I worked for a company that had many bars, and then it was very trendy. It was a celebrity. So basically everybody like kind of wanted to be in there when we opened a new bar, right? So the rule was you could only take the manager for that new bar can only take one from his existing bar. So whenever I opened a new bar, I was leaving a bar, so I was only allowed to take
Mm-hmm.
one bartender, one waitress. So the bottom line is some people would want to leave for the new bar, or like new bars would open up in New York City. They wanted to be at the hot new bar. And I always said, nobody can steal my clients, but I can lose them. Nobody can steal my bartenders and waitresses. I can lose them by not providing a really good environment. What did you do I mean, we know one of the biggest problems is trainers come in, they utilize, Synergy or whatever gym it is, get a couple clients, then they open up their own little space. Whether that's smart to do or not smart to do or ethical, it happens. Was there anything that you kind of safeguarded or thought about and planned on to kind of combat that problem?
Yeah, we talk about a lot in the interview process. If you're looking for your own clients, a commercial gym is a great opportunity for you to get your own book of business. If you're coming here, we're going to do all the external marketing and sales for you. We just need you to be a great trainer. If you're willing to do that, then this is the right place for you. And we also have honest conversations with our members. Like, you came in for your fitness goals. They train at Synergy. They don't train with Joe or with Anthony. It's not like a one-on-one experience, which makes it a little trickier.
Yeah.
You're here for what we can provide. And we've had trainers leave and try to start their own facilities, and they realize how hard it is to do that external marketing and sales piece. And they were better off just staying and almost being like an entrepreneur, growing successfully within the company. And so we have the conversations up front. We get clear on expectations, and that we always have our clients get to know more than one trainer. So our trainers work pretty regular schedule, but there are coverage lapses where someone will come in and run a session. So they have a relationship with more than one person at your business, which is important. They have to understand that they're there for their goals, and you're providing a service as a company. And then you do those harder tasks without relying on your trainers to do it, so that the trainer sees the benefit of staying with you as well.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Let's talk a little bit. It might sound weird to somebody when I first start this. We're talking about you broke David Goggins' pull-up record, right? And then you just talked about doing this marathon without any training, like you don't even a runner. And I was saying to you that, to me, what that kind of highlights is somebody who has the ability to make a decision pretty quickly. And when I did my book, one of the through lines was the most successful people have a bias for action. Can you talk to me about that piece of it and being an owner and how important that is as a business owner, and especially somebody who wants to have a big company like Synergy?
I don't think you can be super successful in one area of your life and then completely off the rails in other areas of your life for very long. Sure, we all know that, like, accountant, that's great, that's 500 pounds, like, but they're not going to be successful for that long. I think a lot of the carryover, a lot of the lessons learned that you can be successful in business happens outside of business. We talked a little bit about the Strong Family Project. Basically, we took all the stuff I learned in business and applied it to our family by saying, hey, we spend too much time organizing our business, but there are some great things that we're learning. Like, why are we just hoping our family happens, but we're putting all this effort into business? What if we did a weekly meeting? What if we set our daily commitments? What if we did our 90-day sit downs and our annual goals? It's the same exact thing, but a different environment. So there's so much carryover for it. Same with the physical accomplishments. So, I mean, I'll go through a long story, very short. They were in upstate, our gyms are in upstate New York. I'm sitting on the side of a mountain in Colorado right now, because during COVID, my wife and I would go for walks and we talk about what we saw as a vision for our family. We wanted to live in an area where our kids may continue to live, and we also wanted to get our kids back at school. It was a very extended time they were out, and so we homeschooled for a year. We have 3 sons. And then we decided, you know what? We want to put our family in the best environment to succeed. So we looked at a map. We picked a town. We looked at the demographics. We looked at the number of graduates that stay there. We looked at the household income. We looked at household prices. We looked at weather. We said, all right, this place sounds cool. Let's fly out and take a look at it. Bought the first house we saw, and we moved to a town in Colorado that neither of us had been to Colorado before. We know nobody
Whoa.
here. We have no preconceived notions that we're just going to move to an area where, like, we know family or anything. So this is like 2021, 22. Still, we have our leadership team established at Synergy. They're running the company, but we had to be real with ourselves that in that area we were in, the majority of graduates left the area. So we said, either we make a hard decision now, or we're going to force our kids to make a hard decision when they graduate. Like, hey, do I want to leave mom and dad? Like, I'm not going to put that on my kids. Let's see if we can set them up for success now. We had long conversations. Basically, as a gym owner during that time in New York, we used to call them swear walks. We'd go for a walk, swear a little bit, get back home. So we were nice and clean, talk around the kids, but you had to get it out somewhere. So every day we go on a little cuss and walk about life, and we would get more serious about it. So we moved to Colorado, and the leadership team stepped up tremendously at the gyms. They were running without me. I'm 2,000 miles away. And during that time, I was almost 40. So I said, hey, I am kind of sick of how people celebrate birthdays. People think I'm weird for this, and I understand. Like, I don't get, like, okay, you lived another year, so let's eat a ton of cake and junk food. Like, how about we celebrate our fitness and, like, what we can accomplish in that year? So I, of course, read David Goggins' book. Tremendous respect for him. And he set up what he has called a soft goal in his pull-up, and other people have beaten, and he has bested it by now. But at that time, I think it was 4,040. That, well, I'm turning 40. I'm going to do 4,140 pull-ups. And the reason why I pulled pull-ups is nothing to do with me loving pull-ups. I actually hate them. During the President's Fitness Test in middle school and high school, I never got a single one. I scored 0 every single year on pull-ups. I used to be over 300 pounds, couldn't do them at all. So I took 6 months and would train for pull-ups because our pull-up bar is in our basement, which is also our kids' playroom. So I'm not looking to like go out and run for hours and be away from my family. I
Yeah.
have 3 young kids. I'm going to do pull-ups between Lego building and for 6 months to get 100, 200, 300, 500 in a day till my birthday. And I spent, I don't remember what it was, maybe 12 hours, 13 hours now doing pull-ups about every minute for probably that period of time till I get 4,140. And then we celebrated as a family. And there's a great book by Chip and Dan Heath called The Power of Moments. And that our lives go by very fast unless we set up these accomplishments or memories that are something bigger than our day-to-day life. And so we did that. And my son Henry, who was 10 at the time, saw me do it. And his birthday was in February. So he said, I'm going to train and do 1,011 for my 11th birthday. And he
Nice.
trained, and we turned 11 together. We did 1,011 pull-ups. He doesn't remember any of the birthday cakes he had on any of the other 10 birthdays, but he still talks about a couple years later his 1,011 pull-up birthday. So we started getting into this, what's possible. The kids didn't know any better. Like that was a serious accomplishment. Super proud of it. He'll always remember that one. I'll always remember the pull-up challenge. So we started getting into more of that, like you said, a bias for action, but also a bias for commitment to that action because it's very easy to quit on hard things. And if you learn to work through those things, it helps you a ton at business. If you're letting your health go as a gym owner, if you're struggling with professional development, all right, I got to commit, I got to see this through for a length of time. It carries over tremendously to your business success.
Awesome. If Goggins is too much for the people out there, The Comfort Crisis is
Love it.
another. That was my favorite book of 2021 and kind of a similar message, right?
I can agree with that. We talk about that with our kids a lot about the power of boredom. And like if you turn off all the devices, and Michael Easter talks about like how bored he actually was sitting there for 20 hours waiting for these caribou to walk across. But we talk about the power of boredom, getting uncomfortable. Like we are blessed that we know we live in a great house. We can press a button and we get heat. We open a door and we get food. And like we get a little accustomed. It does make us a little bit softer of a creature and a person. It's just how it works. And so it's a blessing to have that, but to put these distinct moments of discomfort makes us appreciate it even more. Henry will say, like, oh, I can go climb Pikes Peak. I did 1,000 pull-ups in a day. And he starts to get this different perspective about life because he has done acutely hard things.
That was my next question. I was going to say, are you making them run up to Pikes Peak? Because I looked where Joe lives and I saw his address and I'm like, oh, he's right near Pikes Peak, making those kids run up that hill.
This past summer, my older two sons, they were 11 and 13 at the time. We did a rite of passage, and we read a lot of books on parenting and the difficulty young men have in deciding whether they're like on their own. Is it when they go to college? Is it when they graduate college? Is it when they start their first job? And a lot of societies have this distinct measurement of like rites of passage. Like I mean, go way back to like the tribal societies. Like you go out, you kill a lion, you're a man. Like it's very distinct.
Yeah.
Now that's probably not the best way to do it for us these days, but we want to have some moments in their life where the kids realize they're growing up. So it was a Saturday. I took the older one. We went up to Pikes Peak. It's about a 25-mile round trip hike from where we went. Hard hike and hadn't done it before. I gave him a choice at the top, like, hey, you can take this cog railway to tourist center, you can take this train down, or if we hike down, I'm gonna give you this envelope. He's like, just give me the envelope. Like right away, decided on it. I wrote him a letter about him growing up and becoming a young man, some things that entails, becoming more personally accountable. And with that, I gave him a watch, same watch that I had. It's just like a nicer Garmin watch. So that it signifies him being accountable for his life and showing up where he needs to be and doing the things he needs to do. We hiked down so we could remember that like he's growing up through his youth. And the next day, because our 11-year-old's a little bit more mature, our 5-year-old not yet. What the next day I took him, so I started over back to the bottom of Pikes Peak, another
Oh,
25 miles up and down. I wanted to do it individually with them so that they could have their own independent conversations up and down. And then he had the same option. He chose the envelope, got the watch. And then he had like a little Fitbit. He wanted to gift that to our 5-year-old, who, all right, let's do a mini, like, hey, you're growing up from being like a toddler to pre-K. We went and did the Manitou Incline, which is the highest or steepest maintained trail. I think it's only a mile. It was a 2,000-foot climb up a staircase that used to be a railroad track.
Oh,
And he knocked it out. He got his Fitbit passed down for his younger brother, so he's in charge of his activity. It was a big moment for him too. So it's back to back to back challenges. So yes, I do make them go. Well, I shouldn't say I make them. I gave them the option. You guys don't
yeah.
have to do this. You can take immediate comfort getting that train ride down, or we got to go back the 12 and a half miles. And so we did a rite of passage challenge with them.
Very cool. And then obviously this is leading by example, right? They're seeing this every day. You were doing the pull-ups downstairs in the basement. And this is why I wanted to bring this up, is because, we're going to just finish up with your role with Vince as head business coach and maybe what you do there. And the reason why I kind of wanted to bring all these things in together was because to kind of be like, look, been there, done that, still doing it. Also, is helping people do other things too with the Strong Family Company and the Strong Family Podcast, and making sure that that's still one of your core values important to you, and that you can have the best of those worlds. Also, like you said, you moved to Colorado, your businesses were in New York. If you do it right, these are things that you can do. Talk to me about your role as head business coach for the SPF Mastermind, and really what is it you do, and understand, so people understand, like, you join this mastermind, this is who you have in your corner.
Yeah, very thankful for Vince for the opportunity. I really originally had joined it as a member. And so it's something that I do believe in. Vince is a gym owner. I've been a gym owner for 16 years. There's not much that I haven't seen through growing those facilities, lease negotiation, staff, marketing, growing it from one client in my basement to a seven-figure company. And what I get to do, and it's really a blessing that I get to help other gym owners do the same. And I get to help navigate it. So I get to be the head business coach. I don't, like I said, with a trainer, where you don't want to bring them in and have to do marketing and sales. Vince has given me that opportunity where I don't have to do marketing and sales. I like to do these podcasts, which I really appreciate you having me on, Anthony. But I just get to coach the gym owners and the trainers. So they have Boxer access to me. They send me questions. We do one-on-one calls. They bring up their three biggest hurdles in their companies, and we work through them. And sometimes it's company hurdles. Sometimes it's a personal hurdle with the fitness stuff, because I struggle with it too. Like, it's easy for me to talk about the pull-ups or the funny one. My wife still thinks it's hilarious. I showed up at a 100-mile race without even looking at the course or even owning running shoes. I had to get them shipped in. I got them on Wednesday. The race is on Saturday. I'm like, I don't even have running shoes for this. But just putting myself in such extreme situations then like shows a little bit about what's possible. And the only reason why I can do that is because other people showed me what's possible. Like you mentioned David Goggins. At the time I was reading Cam Hanes' book Endure about like going through tough times and challenges. I was like, he's done this. It makes it more practical for me to do it. So whether it's a physical challenge or business, it's all kind of related. Get some perspective in it and show like it really can, like, you don't have to go from like 50,000 a year, 100,000 a year. Like, you can go bigger. You can go seven figures a year out of one facility. Like, you don't have such a small mindset. Like, all right, well, I'm just going to go run 5Ks my whole life. But you can go show up at a 100-mile race and complete it if you really wanted to. And not that you have to. That was a wild one. That one hurt. But there's a lot you can do. So I have the opportunity to coach other business owners. We talk mostly business and sprinkle in a little fitness and life and strong family stuff if it's the right fit for them and if they're interested.
Very cool. Joe, what my last question for you, just from the perspective of a general fitness business question, is what is probably the one thing that you see, like the calls almost every gym owner has, like, yep, okay, we keep seeing this. This seems to be keep coming up, and that you would talk to people about out there when somebody asks you, like, hey, I really want to I want to get to where you're getting. What is one thing that you've seen a lot? We know there's not one thing. I mean, the one thing that kind of keeps coming back with the mastermind clients.
It's at the beginning, and even as we get more mature in our businesses, we default to making decisions based on emotions and not based on facts and reality. It is very easy to be emotional, especially if we're outside of our core competency. In the business, that means you're a trainer. You can hire a trainer, train them because you were a trainer. That's your core competency. You don't have to be that emotional about it. Like, it's easy. You sit in the sales seat, now you start doing marketing for your business. You've never done that in your whole life. It's like, this isn't working. This is terrible. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Those, like, that last one is true, but it's all solvable. So if you can kind of check a lot of those emotions at the door, check the facts and reality of the situation, decide what the deficit is that you need to cover to be able to do that job, role, task, communication piece, whatever it is, then you can just focus your time and effort on that instead of all the time and effort that's honestly wasted on being frustrated and disappointed, like down on yourself. Like, oh, I can't believe I didn't grow this business. You hit your head off the wall and you're down on yourself for a month. Well, what if you spent that month working on your marketing with someone who has done it before, or if you spend that month trying to keep all the clients you have? It is a lot of the opportunity cost of long-term frustration and emotions cost gym owners significant amount of money and a significant amount of opportunity.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great point. I love it. Joe, thanks for doing this, first of all. And I hope Vince puts his ego aside and allows other people like you to come on. No,
Truly appreciate it.
Vince always speaks really highly of you, and he was really excited to get you on and kind of share your knowledge. And I truly hope we could do this more with the two of you to kind of get you guys alternating, or different times with different topics. So I know you speaking of core competency, have different core competencies, and that's what makes the SPF so great. So Joe, thanks for doing this, brother.
Anthony, absolutely appreciate it. Hopefully I gave people some practical advice along with a little bit of storytelling, but not too much yammering like you mentioned.